You know, there's not many things that get me to watch. I wasn't really a streaming service person before this show, but when I heard that the Obi-Wan show was coming out, it it definitely pushed me, and I had my mom give me your Disney Plus password, and I went ahead and I binged the show. The show is at episode 4 at this point. I might do a whole series review later down the road, but today I just want to talk about episode 6 because this was the finale. This is what everyone was looking for. Everything was wrapped up, or almost everything. And I just want to talk about episode 6. First and foremost, I just want to go ahead and get it out of the way. This entire series reminds me of the prequels, and I'll let you know that here soon. But going into episode 5, this show had very mixed things for me because number one, Darth Vader is just cool. You can put Darth Vader in anything, and I think he doesn't matter what he does, he's cool, right? Everyone loves Darth Vader. Everyone gets wet over Darth Vader, myself included. And the character of Anakin Skywalker he's just my favorite in Star Wars. It just doesn't get better than that. But him and Obi-Wan Kenobi, those are the positives. But overall, this series left me with a bit of a disappointment. It definitely isn't a complete fall on your face, flat out ass garbage fire like for example Morbius was. And I haven't even seen Morbius, but I can already tell you that movie's a dumpster fire. This series is not a dumpster fire. I don't think it's as bad as the Book of Boba Fett was, but I think for a show that is titled Obi-Wan Kenobi, there's so much more you could do with this character that I definitely was a bit confused over some of the decisions made. And I can always talk. I'll talk about that in a series review if I ever do one, because we're only talking about episode 6 here. And before I say anything, I think in general, episode 6, this finale, was really good emotionally. And I'll say that again, emotionally, because I think what most people were expecting from this episode was Reva's climactic arc, which is second, and then number one, everyone was looking forward to the great Vader Kenobi rematch. Now, before I keep saying all this shit, but I'm just gonna dive in. It's gonna be very sporadic. I'm not gonna go in chronological order because I'm just filming this. I'm recording this right after I watched the episode. But the Vader and Kenobi fight had me very conflicted because I don't think the fight was bad per se. We haven't had a good lightsaber duel in what seems like years. The sequel trilogy didn't really give me anything of worth. The Force Awakens was fine, the final battle, but nothing's ever quite beaten the prequels, right? Maybe the Clone Wars gave us some good stuff, but this show has been one of the first lightsaber fights we've had in a while, and it was pretty good, I'd say. But how do I say it? It was solid. I liked it, but I didn't quite. There are a few things that take me out of it. Number one, Obi-Wan got his fucking ass beat by Darth Vader in like episode whatever, right? Dragged through the fire, all that shit. I liked that episode. I think Darth Vader beating Obi-Wan's ass made sense, right? Whether or not you agree if Darth Vader should have pursued Obi-Wan after the fire, you can argue that. I have my own feelings about that, but I'm not going to dive into it because this isn't an episode 3 or 4 review. I don't remember, to be honest. But some of the emotional moments in this episode really didn't hit for me. And I'll go ahead and give you an example. So the fight starts. Obi-Wan ends up leaving the ship because he knows Vader will track him, right? And you could you could pick a plot hole in this, or not a plot hole, but you could attempt to put a plot hole into this episode by saying, oh, Vader directed a full fucking Star Destroyer after Obi-Wan's little dropship when he himself could have pursued Obi-Wan, and then the Grand Inquisitor and the Star Destroyer could have pursued the rebels. You could say that. But Darth Vader is kind of a bitch. He's not a perfect person. He's very temperamental. That's his character. So I can kind of agree and see why he would divert all attention towards Kenobi. So then Vader goes by himself to the planet that Obi-Wan is hanging out on. But he leaves the Star Destroyer just kind of hovering there. And we'll talk about that in a second, later down the line. Number one, after the Obi-Wan and Anakin fight on Mustafar, this planet they fought on is kind of shitty. Now, they don't need to replicate the amazing spectacle of like the lava fight, right? But it was very clear that they were putting a lot of effort and budget into like the choreography and the effects. So they decided to kind of cut back a little bit by giving the overall environment not as cool of a look. It was just a dark planet with rocks. A lot of rocks. It was like a Dragon Ball Z fight where they just flew to like a rocky wasteland to fight. Nice, flat, open wasteland with a lot of rocks. I don't think the environment necessarily took away from the fight. It was just something that I was like, okay, the background looks kind of shitty, but all I'm saying is if, one of the reasons why everyone knows the Anakin and Obi-Wan fight is because it took place on the lava planet. The emotion itself is great, but not spectacle, environment and like the area around your final battle does matter. It didn't kill the episode for me, but it is just a little dock that prevented the fight from. I don't want to say it from being great, but hopefully you get what I'm trying to say. It took it a bit down for me. The choreography and everything, I think, was fine. I don't really judge lightsaber like fights where it's like, oh, why did they do this? It's it's a fight. It's supposed to make me entertained. I was entertained, but there were certain moments that I didn't agree with. Number one, when Obi-Wan gets buried in the rocks, and Darth Vader just assumes he's dead and walks away. You can disagree with Darth Vader doing that. People in this series really don't like to confirm if someone's dead or not. It's very interesting. But Obi-Wan has this moment of when he listens to like a bunch of Anakin and Vader's lines, and that gives him like his oomph. It gives him like a nice moment where he can come out of the rocks full force push. He has his anime protagonist moment. And he starts just launching all these rocks at Vader. That moment was cool. Obi-Wan having a shit ton of rocks in his hands was cool because Rey did that in the Last Jedi, and it's cool seeing Obi-Wan do that. The issue I have is Obi-Wan was a complete bum at the beginning of the series, and I guess he's warmed up. I saw a lot of people talking about how he was going to get his strength back. He was going to get a pep talk from somebody. He technically did get a pep talk from Leia and from Tala and a few other people, but I expected him to either get a pep talk from Qui-Gon or defeat Reva or defeat someone else in the series to kind of get his stamina back or get his mojo back. But he doesn't do that. He kind of just gets his strength back. I don't want to say off screen, but it feels very rushed. Not to mention, that emotional moment feels super rushed. I don't know if they needed to draw it out longer, but it just felt, I don't know, it just felt weird or off. I don't want to say it didn't feel justified because I think they had a good skeleton of an emotional moment here, or of a big moment, and I think the rock part is cool. It works, but I don't know. Obi-Wan just suddenly getting the motivation to fling out of the rocks because he hears Anakin's voice and all these lines. It just comes off as like off to me, if that makes sense. Obi-Wan then proceeds to beat Vader's ass. It is literally a complete 180 from the last fight. I'm not even shitting you, dude. It's like it's pretty even on. Obi-Wan does this cool little thing pose or whatever that everyone loves him doing, and it's pretty even in the beginning. Vader hits him with the rocks, walks away. And then Obi-Wan gets his big moment, flings a bunch of fucking rocks at Vader, starts slashing at his chest button pad or whatever. And then we get the big moment where he slashes Vader's mask, and you hear the breathing. You see Hayden Christensen's face underneath the mask. And in my opinion, this was probably the best moment of the show. This is the climax of the season where Obi-Wan says Anakin, and Anakin and Obi-Wan's lightsabers are both ignited. You then see how they have this conversation where Obi-Wan says he's sorry. He almost looks like he's crying, almost, which is Ewan and Hayden give their all to the scene. And then Darth Vader says that he is not Obi-Wan's failure, and that he is the lone person left after he killed Anakin. And you then see how his face gets lit up by Obi-Wan's blue lightsaber, and then it's lit up by red, kind of like how Kylo Ren did in The Force Awakens. And a very cool touch that I liked was it's Hayden's voice coming from the mask, but you can hear the voice modifier kind of glitching out. So like it's almost like they combined Hayden and James Earl Jones' voices together. They kind of both recorded those lines and did it together. I thought that was really cool. This moment was really sick. I think it perfectly encapsulates what an Obi-Wan show with Darth Vader as the villain should be, and that's the conflict between the lost protege Darth Vader and his master Obi-Wan Kenobi. The part that once again docked the fight was Obi-Wan leaves Darth Vader on the planet and then leaves the planet, okay? You can make some argument to me that Obi-Wan can't kill Anakin. You can make some argument that he can't do it. He leaves, he says, then I guess my friend is truly dead. He says, goodbye, Darth, and then just leaves him there. You mortally wounded the guy. Do you understand what you would do to the Empire if you just chopped his head off right there? It'd be over. That's it. You know. Now it's just the Emperor to deal with. But he doesn't do it. I don't understand why you don't do that. I really don't. You had him beaten. Darth Vader was beaten. Obi-Wan beat him. I don't understand why Obi-Wan didn't kill him. The part that you can't argue is the fact that he then proceeds to just fly off the planet and go straight to Tatooine for the dual climactic event of Reva trying to kill Luke. Didn't Darth Vader leave a Star Destroyer there, just hovering around the planet? They didn't follow him. They didn't track him. They didn't attempt to shoot at him. He just gets to Tatooine off of that planet, helps Reva, and the Empire now never know where he is. Because Vader says we have probe droids scouting every area. Are you telling me Darth Vader had the personal ship, flew to the planet, and then just told the Star Destroyer to just peace out and head to the nearest gas station? That part to me baffles my brain. You could make some case that Obi-Wan leaving Vader at the end, maybe he can't bring it to himself to kill his former Padawan. Maybe. Those two things combined with the really rushed moment in the middle, I think is what made this fight underwhelming, I'd say. The fight itself was underwhelming, but I don't think it makes the episode underwhelming, because you then get to the end, we have the conclusion of Reva. Reva couldn't bring herself to kill Luke because she sees herself in him. You know, she reconciles with Obi-Wan. She buries her lightsaber in the sand. We then have a bunch of ending credits where Obi-Wan meets Leia, meets Luke, does all this stuff. So Reva's arc is basically over. Her arc was kind of mid, to be honest. I'm not one of those Reva haters. Some people don't like the actress. I'm not an acting judge. I can't tell you if it's bad acting, to be honest. But I think Reva has a skeleton of a good character. I really like the idea of her being a secondary antagonist with no real party ties. I like the idea of her being a fallen Jedi, but also she hates the Empire because Vader killed her fellow younglings. I like that. How she survived, they never explain. How she survived a stab as a youngling, and she survived a stab. Vader never finished her off, so to speak. Whatever. Whatever. She is left alive, however, but she is not hinted at all in the ending finale. So where her character goes from here, I don't know. I fully expected her to die in this show. She did not. So I guess they might continue her story. She could be an interesting character. I don't think she should star in her own series, though. But I think she could be a top-tier side character if written a bit better. However, since her arc is already over, I don't really know where you would go with it, but I'm not a writer, so that's what you hire a writer for. I don't think Reva's a terrible character. I think she had some skeletons of good potential here and there that just wasn't utilized right. I'm not going to criticize the actress. But, and then we get a cool surprise at the end, and that's Obi-Wan finally meets with Qui-Gon Jinn. Now, I fully expected Qui-Gon to not be in this show. I saw an interview that said Liam Neeson was really picky about not being in TV shows. He liked the big screen. They got him to return as Qui-Gon for a small cameo. Literally like 10 seconds. I fully expected if they were to get Qui-Gon for the show, they were going to use it as like his pep talk, as Obi-Wan's pep talk. So when Qui-Gon didn't show up in that big emotional moment for Obi-Wan, I fully thought we weren't going to see Qui-Gon in this season. And we did at the end. So that was a nice surprise. Liam Neeson looks great. But here's where this episode and this entire series feels like the prequels in the way that Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen, Reva, Vader, they're all like there's hints of like great moments. There's hints of great stuff. The Vader and Obi-Wan fight is solid. The Vader and Obi-Wan first fight is solid. There's like tiny hints and drops of good stuff, but the overall product feels a bit underwhelming. Like, for example, the prequel trilogy. A lot of people didn't like that upon release. Give it some time to marinate. People loved the prequels. It's so cheesy that you can find funny moments, funny lines to laugh at. Everyone loves the Obi-Wan and Anakin fight at the end of Revenge of the Sith, the Yoda and Darth Sidious fight. I think this series is definitely going to be viewed upon like the prequels potentially, where I personally feel like now that it's wrapped up, it was a bit underwhelming, but that doesn't necessarily mean it was completely devoid of entertainment, so to speak. Obi-Wan, Hayden Christensen, and Ewan McGregor are great. They're the characters we know and love. James Earl Jones comes back. Vader is great, and that emotional moment between Obi and Anakin was great. It was good. Obi-Wan not killing Vader is gonna piss me off for the remainder of time. How he just leaves the planet and they never find him again. Whatever, dog. We did get a cameo from Darth Sidious, I think. I do believe that was Ian McDiarmid as Darth Sidious in this series. So that was cool. Another cameo there. That's overall my thoughts. It was a long fucking video, but I just wanted to say my thoughts about this. This was overall, I liked the episode. The things that I didn't like did bring down the episode, but not enough to where I didn't at least enjoy it. It isn't the most perfect encapsulating Obi-Wan series that I would have liked, but they did the best with what they had, and it isn't, it's not horrible. It could have been a lot worse with the Book of Boba Fett. They could have shoehorned in a shit ton of legacy characters. They kind of already did, but you know what I mean, hopefully. And overall, I enjoyed this episode. I'll probably release a series review if I feel like talking about this a bit more. But overall, it was a solid episode. Just a lot of weird things that I don't know if I really agreed with.